Welcome everyone, welcome to the Swindon Spring Festival 2020, which was to be a live event, but alas, because of this naughty little virus that we've got and that's affecting everyone, we can't be running and we can't be talking in large numbers together. But what we have done is provide a little virtual session for you. So each of us, the three people you'll be hearing from, we're all in our own homes, being very good, being locked down and isolated, but still very keen to talk about today's topic. And today's topic is running and all things related to it. And we have a guest author who's written 2 books. We'll come to them in a minute. And we have a sort of queen of Swindon parkrun also among us. Very keen runner, but brilliant organizer. And let me introduce you to them. So let's give a Swindon Spring Festival welcome to our guest author, Vassos Alexander, and our local runner, Emma Sperring. Welcome, you two.
Thank you. Hello.
Thank you, Matt.
Vassos, have you ever been to Swindon before?
I have. I've been to Swindon lots. I'm a sports reporter by trade, so I have been to Swindon Town FC, and I've been to well, actually, we've been quite a lot as a family. We quite like hiring places in the country. Just over Christmas, New Year, we were quite close to Lydiard Park, so we did Lydiard Park run on New Year's Day with my nephew and my son and my brother-in-law, the 4 of us, and our respective dogs. In fact, I forgot Holly in the boot of the car, and it's quite obviously every park run's a bit different, but I remember that we thought the run briefing. Did you do the run briefing, Matt? I seem to recognise you. Anyway, somebody who looks a bit like you maybe did the run briefing, and then we all set off from right there. It was like, okay, off you go. And then I suddenly remembered Holly in the car, so I had to divert left back to the car park, get the dog, and then join everyone. And I said I'd catch them up, the others, because we were a little bit shabby. It was New Year's Day after all. Certainly the dads were. But they were waiting for me. So we had a lovely little trot round. It's that 2-loop course. But a couple of days earlier, I'd been there with Mary for the junior park run, which kind of goes up and the other way, doesn't it? It goes left. So I know Lydiard Park really well.
That's great. Emma, have you been to Lydiard Park before?
I think about 500 times, Matt. Yeah, I'm very familiar with Lydiard Park. We're normally there every weekend, actually, until the lockdown. So that day you were talking about, Vassos, on New Year's Day, we did actually have a female run director that day. It wasn't Matt, but you may have met Matt actually that day.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Are you sure you had a female run director? Because I seem to remember a bloke doing the run briefing, but maybe I'm wrong.
No, it was one of our other female run directors, but Matt's often there, especially on New Year's Day. So I'm really pleased to hear that you went on the Sunday for Junior Park Run. It's a well-attended event now. Did you really enjoy it?
Yeah, we had a lovely time, Mary. It was really cold and windy. And I think as you go up and left along the hill, I think that was uphill and into the wind. And we're used to, we're in London, so the biggest hill we come to is Hammersmith Bridge, basically. So Mary had a bit of a shock that it was uphill into the wind, and it was her first uphilly run. So apart from that, so it's all right, because we get to the top, and it's downhill, wind behind. So we had a lovely time. I think Russ was there, Russ Jeffries from Parkrun, the global communications head honcho, with his 2 twin daughters who were gorgeous, and they were doing their first ever park run. So no, it was a lovely day. It was a cold day, but it was a lovely day, and I think it was their 4th birthday as well.
That's right, because their birthday is in December, and I've seen Russ quite recently, and they were so keen to do Junior Park Run. So it was great, and they had their photo taken the last time I saw them, so they had a great time. I've checked out your profile, Vassos, and I can't see that you've been to Swindon on there. So how is that?
No, okay, so I do have a bit of a thing of, well, in 2020 I've been better. So I do have a thing where I forgot my bar. It's just that I can barely remember my running shoes. In fact, I've turned up at the start line of my first ultra marathon without running shoes. So remembering a barcode for my, half a brain cell is well, it has been beyond me 9 out of 10, possibly more park runs that I've ever done. And then I started doing the free weekly timed podcast, and then people were getting a bit, giving me a bit of grief for that. And I sort of checked, and everyone said, well, it's fine. As long as you don't funnel duck, then forget your barcode, it doesn't matter. Mm. So I thought, well, if it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter. So I carried on forgetting my barcode. But now, lately, Matthew should have been way beyond his 50. I should be sort of nudging 150 to 200. And I sort of think maybe it would have been nice to have a record of all the park runs somewhere. So I don't like regretting stuff. So I don't regret it so much as, from now on, I'll remember my barcode.
So you're aiming for that 50 t-shirt?
Yeah. You've just mentioned Matthew, and Emma mentioned Junior Park Run. And I'm a bit jealous of you two because I'm a little bit older than you. And the result is that my children are big. And it was one of them, who actually introduced me to parkrun. And I, like you, Vassos, have 2 girls and 1 boy. And I'm a Matt, and I think you have a Matt in the family. And I have a brother called Luke, and Emma has a son called Luke. So there are lots of these lovely connections. But tell me, what's it like having young children, being interested in running yourself, and either getting them interested in running or not? What's all that like?
So I have 3 children. Emily has just turned 16. Matthew is about to turn 14, and Mary is 5. Emily's not a runner. She's a fantastic rower. She got a silver medal last year at the Nationals, which have been cancelled this year. So she does do running, but she just doesn't. In fact, this morning she did a 5K run because that was part of her fitness program that her rowing coach has set out for her during this lockdown period. And she came back and she looked fantastic. Like you look kind of energized after a run and sparkly eyed, and she's fit and strong and tall, Emily. And I just thought, gosh, I bet she enjoyed that run. I saw her, I was having a cup of coffee with my wife, Caroline, in what we call the cafe, which is just the front porch. And she came back from her run, and I thought, I bet she enjoyed that. And she looked at me and said, I don't like running. And so running's just not for her. She gets what we get out of rowing. I don't get that at all myself. Rowing really hurts. But Matthew likes running. Matthew's a runner. He set himself a target of going sub 20 minutes by the summer at our local park run, which is Fulham Palace, which obviously he won't do because, well, actually, who knows? Who knows if we'll open by the summer? The park run will open by the summer. But anyway, he still goes. He takes himself down to the track as his daily exercise, and he does his stuff, and he loves it. It's lovely to see, and it's lovely to have that connection. So Saturday mornings are all about me and Matthew. We leave the house, we cycle, we walk, we run. Well, actually, we've never run. In my head, sometimes we run, but we never have. Sometimes we drive to our local park run, and we do the 5K, and we just natter along. Sometimes we natter, sometimes we go for a PB. It's just a lovely thing. It's a lovely thing to have with one of your children. And then Sunday morning is all about me and Mary, and she's been going since her 4th birthday. And just before the lockdown, before parkrun had to be paused, she just got it. She just realised that running isn't easy, but that's sort of the point. And it doesn't matter, because afterwards there will be a time when you're not running, and you can really kind of pat yourself on the back and bathe in the endorphins. And she broke a PB by 30 seconds, and then broke it the next week by another 30 seconds on quite a hilly course for London, which is Acton. And it was just great. It was just lovely to see her suddenly really blossom into somebody who really enjoys running. It's such a privilege for me. And actually, doesn't have to be my own children. I took my boss, Magic Mike at Virgin Radio, the program director, did his first run, not his first park run, his first ever run at Fulham Palace Park Run. Because I say to people, if if they want to do a couch to 5K, that's all well and good, but you can just do that at parkrun because you can't finish last, obviously, as you both know, and you can walk as much or all of it, doesn't matter. And so we did a 42-minute parkrun together around Fulham Palace, and it was a real privilege, as much to do it with Mike, his first ever run, and to hear him say, I'm going to come back next week, as it is to do it with my kids. But yeah, I love it. I absolutely love it. I love introducing people to running, and I think maybe it's because I'm a kind of a late starter myself. I'm like a born again runner.
I'm an even later starter than you, Vassos, and there's nothing more thrilling than to convert someone to parkrun. And I've belonged to many sports clubs in my life, and they all say everyone welcome, all inclusive, but there's nothing like parkrun. And what they actually mean in most of the clubs, they're lovely, but what they mean is if you've really got a good topspin backhand down the line, you'll be in the team or something like that. And if not, you can come on the social nights or something like that. But parkrun is so brilliant, all inclusive. There's nothing quite like it. And converting someone to it, a person who I converted last year said to me the other day, do you know what, Matt? I want to tell you this. Since doing parkrun, my family like me more. How about that? Emma, you've got at least one parkrun. Have you now got two parkrunners for your children?
Yeah, so like yourself, Vassos, well, she's coming up 5 actually. Grace, she's now doing junior parkrun, and she was actually a bit reluctant to start with. She she wasn't that keen, and it was a real struggle to get her round. But quite recently, she's really been enjoying it, and going round on her own, and actually she's better if I'm not there. I don't know if you find the same, but she's actually better if I'm not going round with her.
And no, quite the opposite actually for us. I still haven't. I'm still persuading Mary to not hold my hand all the way around. It doesn't matter. I quite like it. I don't get to hold my 16-year-old's hand anymore.
But I have a son, Luke. He's 7 now, and he does junior parkrun, but also the main parkrun now. So he really enjoys going a little bit further now. So actually a week or so before the lockdown, we did the 5K together, because normally I'm run director. So that day I decided to go around with my son at the 5K, and he really enjoyed it. But what I wanted to ask you, Vassos, actually, going back to what you were saying about, taking a new person to parkrun. Lots of parkrunners tell me they do parkrun not because of the running, but because of the social side. Do you get that as well?
I get that people tell me it, and I completely understand it, and I know that parkrun is as much about the community as it is about the run or walk or jog 5 or 2 kilometers. We don't tend to hang around afterwards just because of stuff to do, places to be, and busy family life. And actually, more on the Sunday, Mary has a little friend, Zeki, and his dad Richard. Richard and I run in the Barnes Runners, our local running club, and Mary and Zeki play together afterwards. So more on the juniors, but certainly on a Saturday, there's kind of, we haven't ever hung around afterwards to have a cup of coffee. I'd love to. And one day I'll have time, and I look forward to it. But I do completely get how much a community thing parkrun is, as much as a sort of healthy running, walking, jogging thing.
I think it's a great.
What's interesting about that is that even in other running circles, so we mustn't rave about parkrun over everything else, because there are other running circles. And in your book, Vassos, which we'll come to in a minute, Running Up That Hill, you have this lovely phrase. You speak of the warm blanket of community of runners, the warm blanket of the community of runners. And that's nothing to do with parkrun. That's in South Africa or somewhere on an ultra. So sorry, what were you going to say, Emma?
I can't remember.
The next question I wanted to ask you both, you've spoken about your children, but how did each of you get into running? Why don't you do bowls or badminton or play the organ at weekends or something? Why in the church? I mean, why running? And as Vassos said, it's hard. It's strangely simple because it's a pair of trainers. You know, no racket is needed, no cue is needed. It's a pair of trainers and shorts and a t-shirt or something. And yet, I did one early this morning, and after about 1.5 miles, there's something hard, and then after 2 miles, it gets a bit easier. But if you push yourself, it's always hard. And then there's this wonderful glow. But how did you two get into it?
Emma.
Oh, okay. So I really enjoyed running as a child. Actually, I never competed or took it seriously. It wasn't until university that I started running regularly, and it was due to the cost factors really when I was at university, because it's free, and I've carried on ever since. And something else is you can fit it in any time. It's so flexible, and being so busy now with a family means that I can go out really early in the mornings, and the children aren't even out of bed, and you know, and I've got the rest of the day ahead of me. So so people question the time I go out, because it's really quite early while everyone's still in bed, but it seems to fit in with our schedule at home. But yeah, that's when I took up running, was as a teenager, I suppose, at uni.
Thanks, Emma.
I was much later to it. I was a 30-something, maybe very early 30-something, and I sort of realised that I couldn't carry on doing no exercise and eating what I wanted, and still, you know, and not put on weight. I noticed a little flob of fat around my belt as I was sitting at a traffic lights once, and I thought, well, okay, I'll try doing some exercise, and I did, and I hated it in a gym. And then I went running, and then I realized that, gosh, you know, it just ticks so many boxes. You know, you're outside, you're in nature, what the Japanese call forest bathing. You know, it appeals to the ancestral eye, you know, because this is what we're meant to be. We're meant to be outside, and you're moving your body in the way that your body was designed to be moved. And there's a sort of childlike joy of running when you could be walking, and it's good for you, and you feel great after it, and all the, you know, the mental health benefits. It just, you know, it ticks slightly different boxes for different people, but it seemed to tick all the boxes for me immediately, even though I was terrible at it. You know, I couldn't get to the end of my street, but I sort of stuck with it. I love the simplicity. I love the fact that you just put on a pair of trainers, not even in some cases. You know, I was just speaking to the wonderful Anna McNuff, who ran from the very top to the very bottom of the UK in bare feet, actual bare feet, not Vibrams or anything. But, you know, basically you just need a pair of shorts, a t-shirt and a pair of trainers, and out you go, and that's your exercise. Talking about Emily, our 16-year-old, who's a fantastic rower, but by the time she gets to her boat club, on 2 trains, and then meets up with all her, you know, her other rowers and her coach, and gets it on the water, and then paddles to wherever they're going to start, you know, doing their I'm back home, showered, and on to the next thing, you know. It's, as you say, it doesn't take too much time. It doesn't have to. It can do if you do some silly long races like I have, but I love it for the simplicity. I seem to be doing right by my DNA when I'm out running, and you never regret a run. I love it.
No, it makes you feel good, doesn't it?
That's such a good point, that last one, Vassos. We've had, in this slot that you're now filling at the festival, we've had Bruce Tullow, who ran in the 60s and 70s,
yeah.
Great guy. Paul Sinton-Hewitt, founder of Parkrun as well. Neil McAndrew, and all of them said, they said many different things, but all of them said this one thing of, when you go out for a run, you may not feel like it may be raining, all sorts of things, but you never regret it afterwards. None of them could remember. And Bruce Tullow ran across the States and didn't regret it. So so there you go. For me, I came to running later, and it was my daughter said to me, Dad, and I'm a very keen tennis player, and she said, Dad, you should do this running thing, and there's a park run thing, I think it would suit you, it's got all the ingredients you like. I said, no, I've got tennis, I don't need it, I've got books, so I've got tennis. And I went once and I was just smitten. I just can't believe it. And there's a passage in your book, Vassos, in which somebody asks you, what's your favorite run? And you know the great answer that Vassos gives? I'm looking at Emma now, not Vassos. He says, the next run I'm going to do, tomorrow's run, wherever it is. And this idea that some places are more beautiful than others, it's the next run. And the beauty comes from, you know, that Japanese quote you gave, wherever you are. I go along a similar track sometimes that I've been 100 times, and I see something new. I see another bird, or I see another little bump in the road, and it's great. It's just magic. It is wonderful. Vassos, you also wrote another book in 2016 called Don't Stop Me Now, a celebration of running. Part escapes, part self-discovery, part therapy, part fitness, part simple childlike joy of running when we could be walking, etc., etc. But then you spoke of the highs and lows of falling in love with running. I mean, what do spouses, my children are older, so they're away from home, but what do spouses of people with younger children say about the one who runs? In other words, what does Caroline say about you, Vassos, and what does Simon say about you, Emma? And no one else is listening, so this is just the three of us. Seriously, how does it affect family life?
Well, I think I'm a better version of myself as a runner, a better husband, a better father, thanks to being a runner. And I'm pretty sure Caroline would agree with that. She's been very patient. I picked up that pair of trainers that first time I went for a run, and I just wanted to see where the journey would take me. And it's taken me to many kind of far-flung places, and it's been fantastic. And, you know, and especially when I'm doing a week-long race over every Welsh mountain, or a 250-kilometer slog through, you know, Greece from Athens to the Peloponnese, you know, that takes me away. That this summer I was meant to be doing the Comrades Marathon, which is obviously been postponed, but it's in June in South Africa. That would have been another 4 days away from home. But I think, you know, by and large, running doesn't take as long, even for stupid long events. It doesn't take as long to train as, say, cycling does. And when I say the highs and lows of running, I think, to be honest, Matt, that's more like back cover copy. It sounds good, the highs and lows of running, because I suppose there aren't that many lows. I would say there are no lows. I suppose there's injury, and I suppose that there's the fact that, especially in a very long race, it does hurt a lot, but they kind of pale into insignificance compared to the highs. I'm sure, Emma, you'd agree.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, I don't spend an awful lot of time on running, actually. I run in the mornings, and then it doesn't have an impact on the rest of our day. So in that sense, you know, and what you've said is that it can fit in with your lifestyle, can't it? And you're therefore you know, around during the day and able to enjoy that run in the mornings. For me, I suppose in terms of parkrun, it has had an impact on the family, because they're always there too. So in that sense, they are there at parkrun on a Saturday and Sunday, and I suppose they now love that. So in a sense, it's been a positive thing for the family, that I love running, and so do they now. So yeah.
And as you say, you can always fit it in around your day, can't you? I run my commute, so then there's 10 miles, 10 and a half miles along the Thames towpath from our studios at Virgin back to my home in Barnes, which I've done, and it doesn't take me that much longer than it would do if I was driving or taking the train or the tube. But there you go, that's 10 and a half miles done. 21 if I want to, you know, run there as well. So you can always fit it around your day. You can find it. You always, if you want to, you can always find time to run. And occasionally, when I've really had to do a long training run and I absolutely haven't had time for it, run through the night. I just run. You know, instead of going to bed, I just run, and then I arrive at work the next morning. And actually, there's something a bit bonkers and a bit soulful about running through the night. You know, you sort of feel like you're patrolling while everyone else goes to sleep, and then you find, you know, London wakes up and you're just another runner out at 5 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning, and nobody knows that you've been there all night. And you sort of think that the parks will be a bit spooky at night, and they're really not, actually. I've done it, I don't know, a dozen times running through the night. It's great. It's a bit bonkers and it's a bit soulful, and I suppose maybe that's me. I'm a bit bonkers and I'm a bit soulful.
I'm going to ask you about that in a minute, Vassos, but I just want to say how my running affects family life. Well, it doesn't, because, as I said, my children have left home. They come and see us occasionally. But what I've found it does have an impact on is my work, especially when I have to go to meetings. And I normally run first thing in the morning. So I run first thing in the morning, and then I go to a meeting, and the people are yawning at 10 o'clock in the morning, and they're saying, they spend about 20 minutes deciding what biscuits we're going to eat before the meeting starts. And then they yawn again. And I think, bloody hell, why aren't they fired up? And why aren't the endorphins driving them to make decisions and move this meeting on and get out of the meeting? And that's the effect that running has, that it makes you a little bit optimistic and speedy and keen and let's get on with it, when other people, bless them, I'm sure maybe they get high energy later on in the day, but when they're still a little bit sluggish, bless them. Emma, you were going to add something to what Vassos said just then.
Yeah, I was just, I'm fascinated by your running, actually, Vassos, and I was wondering how you're managing to train at the moment with the lockdown. Are you able to get out and exercise still?
Not really. No, not really. Thing is, we're allowed one exercise a day, and I think it's really important. Certainly Matthew, our middle child, our son, is very aware of, and as am I. I mean, you just want to do the right thing, but you also want to be seen to do the right thing. And I think my kids will remember what we were like during this time, especially the older two. And I don't want them to think that I'm the sort of person that thinks it's okay to go and do an unnecessarily long run, or the sort of person who thinks it's okay to go and do a run and then have a walk with the family. So I've had to decide, what is more important? Is it my running, or is it being with the family? So today I won't have a run because we're going to go for a walk later today, the five of us, hopefully the five of us. Emily sometimes decides whether to come or not, and that's absolutely fine, because you don't want someone with you who doesn't want to be there. And actually, no, she won't come. Sorry, she's been for a run. She won't come. So I'm not really, I'm running a few times a week. We have some fitness equipment. We're very lucky at home. People were panic buying toilet roll and pasta, I was panic buying sports equipment. So we have a Concept 2 erg at home. We have a spin bike, and we have some free weights, and we have a garden. I did try and do a park run round the garden once, but never again. I would love to have, actually, during this time, I'd love to have a treadmill, but I don't. So my running fitness is just, I'm hemorrhaging running fitness with every day that goes. And I also don't feel, I mean, I'm lucky because I go to work. I go to work at our studios every Monday to Friday morning. But I sort of feel if I run back now, then that's my exercise. You know, that I'm coming back in a sweaty state. As far as my neighbours are concerned, I've just been out for a run, so I don't want to run and then go out for a walk. So I'm not running much. I'm running once, twice a week if I'm lucky, and goodness knows what I'll be like when I come back. But it's first world problems.
Yeah.
Had you been with us on the 9th of May after our morning park run together, and then we'd have gone to a nearby theatre and had your talk, I'd have been asking you a bit more about this book, Running Up That Hill. And you've actually alluded to it a couple of times in your answers. One in saying stupid long distance running, you recalled it, and then bonkers running in the night. And Emma and I mean, Emma does greater distances than I do, but I'm really just a park runner. And every time I do a park run, or sometimes I do 10K, I think, well, that was a long way. And then I hear of, you know, the Comrades run in South Africa and some of the runs you've done. Why these distances, and what's going on there? Because they really do seem quite extreme.
Yeah, they are, and they can appear bonkers. And I say they're bonkers just so that people like you, Matt, and you, Emma, sort of can get on board with it. But what I really believe is that they're not at all bonkers, you know, that you really run through to a better version of yourself, that the joy is in the struggle, that you're never more in the moment than you're when you're doing these runs. The longest one I've done is in one go is 246 kilometers from Athens to Sparta. It's this very historic race. The guy that gave birth to the marathon, Phidippides, who ran from Marathon to Athens to announce the victory over the Persians, he a couple of days earlier had to run to Sparta to ask for help in the battle, and apparently he did it in a day and a half, and you try and recreate that run, and they make it quite tough because you have to do the first marathon, I think, in under 3.5 hours, or you're out, and you've got a mountain to climb then. Anyway, it's a great race, and the Greeks really sort of respect you for doing it, and you know, schools are closed and the kids come out to them, and I was running, I don't know, almost 30 hours, and I was wondering whether, I know there's no music allowed, you're on roads for much of it, and people say, well, you know, were you bored, or why do you do it? But I know that you know, that race, I reached the bottom of the well of, you know, they say about finding out stuff about yourself. Well, I really did, you know, I really did. It took every ounce of me to get to the end there, and it's not a case of, you know, do a park run, then do a 10k, then do a half marathon, and then do a marathon, and then see, you know, it's not a case of like, has to be further and further, you know, like the drugs don't work almost, you know, and trying to run further. It's just a case of that thing I said about seeing where the running journey takes me. I'm so lucky it's taken me to these places, because talking about that warm blanket of community, you do get it at parkrun. And I'm a sports reporter. I've been doing this job for 20 odd years, and I've covered an awful lot of sports, and you will not find an ultra running. I don't like the word ultra because it seems so exclusive and so kind of only ultra fit people need apply, but actually it's so welcoming, and they're all shapes and sizes on the start line, and everyone really cares as much about anyone else's race as about their own, and you have the absolute legends of the sport hanging around at the finish line to welcome others back through. It's just the most fantastic sport, and people think, well, I couldn't possibly do that because I find a park run hard enough. Well, I ran yesterday. My last run was yesterday. It was 29 minutes long. It was just a shade over 4 miles, and I struggled with every step of it. And if you'd said to me yesterday, well, you know, you would be running however long Comrades is in a couple of months' time, I'd say, well, I couldn't do it. But it's, you know, it's all in the mind. You learn so much about yourself. You make so many wonderful friends along the way, that these long races, I sort of think that everyone should try running 100 miles. And I know I know how that sounds, but sort of don't knock it until you've tried it.
No. And the thing about this book, you running up the hill, you think when you look at the chapters that it is about these long races, and then you realize it's about friendship. In every race that Vassos runs, he talks more about friendship than the run almost. So it's absolutely so reassuring to know that it's not just in parkrun, but it's actually in the running community. We have to stop in a minute, guys. Wordsworth once said, long we had not talked ere we built up a pile of better thoughts. In other words, you just get going when you have to stop, but that's the way it is. Vassos, you've disappeared. Will you come back? Yes, you're back. But I'd like you, before we finish, to, I'll give you a moment to think about it, to think of viewers here who don't run, who might have switched on to look at this, why they should perhaps try it. And then people who already do, any little tips you might want to give them, or make sure they join us at either in Swindon, certainly at Lydiard Park Run or Seven Fields Park Run. And then we have some lovely park runs just nearby. And while you're thinking of that, this was the page in the program. There you can see park runners and Vassos and his book, and all that is now, well, it's online, it's virtual instead of actual, but it was going to be actual. So maybe we'll get Vassos back another year, do you think, Emma, in the flesh?
That would be lovely, actually, this time next year.
Yeah. When he's not doing a parkrun quiz or not in South Africa. Anyway, what would you say, Emma, to anyone who is watching this and is thinking, you know what, we're allowed a bit of exercise daily on our own. What should I do?
Well, I always recommend to start with just going out and going for a walk, actually, and just getting out there and enjoying nature and the weather at the moment. Hasn't it been amazing? So I would just recommend that. But actually, what I've noticed, if people are really keen to start running, is there's so much online now to encourage people to go for a run. And we have a great community Facebook page as well. So I think social media is very good in encouraging people to get out there and run. So there's lots going on at the moment during the lockdown to get people exercising. But I would say when we're back to parkrun and people haven't experienced it, it's just to come along and volunteer. And then they'll get the sense of parkrun and what it's all about, and that it's not all about times and speed, and that it's about, that it's about the community.
And it's walking as well.
Exactly. Yeah. Walking and running. Yeah.
Thanks, Emma. Vassos.
So to people who haven't run before, I would say do please try it. Just start going for a walk. Maybe go for a walk run. Run for 30 seconds, walk for 2 minutes, 8 times, and you've been out 20 minutes, and you've been for a run. So don't worry. I would say the first thing to do is to not worry about walking. The second thing I would say is, be kind to yourself. Pat yourself on the back. You've been out. You have you build it up quite quickly. I started walk running, and then I just sort of very slowly thought, oh, these gaps of walking are getting further and further apart. And then I suddenly realized I could run 10 minutes. And I thought, well, if I double that, then I've been out for a 20-minute run, which is by any stretch of the imagination, an actual run. And then I thought, well, gosh, suddenly I've become a runner. And it only took a few weeks or months. So do that. Be kind to yourself. Congratulate yourself if you've been out. And the other thing I'd say is just enjoy it. Enjoy the fact that you're outside. Enjoy the weather, even if it's raining. Just accept it. Acceptance while you're on a run is a really important thing. Look at the trees, listen to the birds, watch where you are, even the pavements, even wherever you are. Just I don't think you connect to a place quite as deeply as you do as when you're running in it. So just do that. Just do that first time. Battle through it because it's hardest at the start, but I promise a life with running in it is better than a life without it. It's what we were meant to do.
Vassos, I love what you say, and I like running for many reasons, but 3 come to mind in particular. One is, if you want a cup of tea to taste better, go for a run, and it will always taste best afterwards. If you want a shower to feel 10 times as good as it usually does, go for a run and it will. And most of all, if you're short of a kiss on the cheek, go for a run in the rain, and the raindrops will kiss you on the cheek. And there's nothing quite like it. Rain on the car windscreen looks awful. Rain on your cheeks is wonderful. Non-runners.
I wanted to call the first book "Running in the Rain," but the good people at Bloomsbury knew better.
The next book. Thanks very much, Emma and Vassos, and any of you people who are watching. We hope all is well where you are in these tricky times, and we hope that we'll meet again running. But for now, a Swindon Spring Festival thank you to Emma Sperring and Vassos Alexander. Thank you both very much. Thank you for watching this virtual session at the Swindon Spring Festival of Literature and the Arts 2020. We do hope you enjoyed it. And we also hope that you will join us for the rest of this virtual festival. Here for you are details of the author you have just watched, their book, and our online information. Thank you very much for joining us, and keep well till we meet again.